Hello, my name is Crescent Jicol and I'm a lecturer in HCI within the Department of Computer Science at the University of Bath in the UK. This is our paper titled Imagine That, Imaginative Suggestibility Affects Presence in Virtual Reality. This is a collaborative work between the Universities of Bath, Bristol and King's College London in the UK. The increased sense of presence afforded by VR head-mounted displays is perhaps the single most important characteristic that distinguishes them from the more conventional 2D screens. According to the definition given by Widmer and Zinger in 1998, presence as a construct refers to the user's subjective feeling of actually being in a place or environment, even when they are situated in another. Presence is instrumental to a variety of VR applications, from those meant for entertainment such as games to learning, training, rehabilitation, and desensitization. Furthermore, presence has been often operationalized as a singular construct when in fact it can be divided into three subtypes. Spatial presence refers to the sense of being spatially located in a virtual space. Social presence is the sense of sharing the same space with another social agent, while self-presence represents the coherence between the actual self and the self presented in the virtual environment, which in some cases is represented by an avatar. Personality characteristics have long been shown to affect how much presence an individual experiences in VR, with little consensus on the directionality of those effects, however. Still, some personality characteristics, including spatial intelligence, introversion, and anxiety, have been shown to support the formation of presence. Despite the added immersion and sense of presence provided by VR experiences, it is still a niche technology that does not seem to appeal to everyone. While some technical factors such as display quality have improved markedly, other technical factors like headset weight are still problematic. Similar design issues have led to some researchers to declare that VR is sexist in its design, as device characteristics appear to cause more VR sickness in women than men. One trait, however, which remained unexplored in the context of VR presence was that of imaginative suggestibility. Imaginative suggestibility is the ability of an individual to successfully experience an imaginary scenario as if it were real. So, for example, imagining that a heavy book is placed on your hand or is under a stream of flowing water. While imaginative suggestibility can provide deeper understanding of an individual's feelings of presence, other techniques are required to enhance it. One such technique that has been shown promise in enhancing presence, and which could be linked to suggestibility, is priming. Priming involves being exposed to stimuli prior to an experience in the hope that the exposure subsequently impacts the processing of elements related to said stimuli that exist in the experience. Recently, research has shown how priming can potentially enhance social and spatial presence. Researchers have also explored how it may be possible to prime users to increase their sense of presence in VR. It is unclear though whether this effect is mediated by suggestibility or not. Developing a better understanding of how human factors influence formation of presence is key to improving people's experience in VR. This is especially relevant to VR content designers who aim to engage wider populations of potential users. Additionally, exploring approaches that might allow VR designers to not only understand who will experience presence but understand how to influence and increase levels of presence across all users will help accelerate the growth and adoption of VR. In order to address these research gaps, we posed the following research questions. First, we asked, what is the role of suggestibility in the formation of spatial, social, and self-presence? And secondly, do individuals who are more suggestible benefit from priming in the context of VR? Now, as to what was done in the study, we recruited a total of 128 participants and we adopted a between participants design with 4 groups, depending on the type of priming they received prior to the VR experience. 3 priming materials were created, providing prior information on either the space of the virtual environment, the other avatars present in the experience, or their own character. The priming material was created so as to be historically accurate and was administered in an audio format prior to the VR experience. To measure all 3 types of presence, we used the multimodal presence scale. This is one of the few scales that distinguish between the 3 types of presence and has been validated in VR before. To measure imaginative suggestibility, we used an audio version of the creative imagination scale. A professional actor was hired to record 12 suggestions which were then administered to the users in a soundproof room to avoid any noise interference. The users indicated how vivid was each of the 12 suggestions, and this created the overall score for suggestibility. A custom VR environment was developed which depicted a historically accurate impression of the ancient oracle of Dodona. The VR Oracle, or VRO environment, is a 7-minute first-person VR experience. The user embodies the character of a slave who ran away and reached the sanctuary at Dodona. The environment is separated into different scenes, with each scene telling the story of an ancient man or woman as they consult the oracle. Greek actors were hired to voice the characters in the virtual environment so as to create a more authentic experience, which was recorded in the English language. The avatars were animated using motion tracking data from the same actors who performed all the scenes. A team of ancient historians were involved designing the narrative, physical environment, characters, and speech content so as for it to be historically accurate. Details such as period-accurate clothing and color shades were all implemented to make VRO a usable educational tool. Here you can see a snapshot of the final scene.
Pilgrim, we know why you are here. You have come to ask about freedom. We offer a libation. Zeus of Dodona, great in strength, accept this.
Overall, results indicated that imaginative suggestibility was strongly correlated with all types of presence, and this trend was uniform. No effects of priming were found, however, which could suggest that the priming material used was not comprehensive enough to provide enough prior information. This could be due to it being reduced to the auditory modality and to a minute-long recording, rather than more expansive descriptions as were used in past literature where priming effects were found. And to summarize the results, first, we provide evidence that suggestibility is an important factor that contributes to the formation of spatial, social, and self-presence. Second, we found that suggestibility, not gender, is important for the formation of social and spatial presence. Third, both gender and suggestibility are important factors in the formation of self-presence. Still, the uniform effects of suggestibility across types of presence are outstanding. Other personality traits such as extroversion, agreeableness, or empathy could have more pronounced effects on certain subtypes of presence because they more specifically change the way social information is interpreted. Imaginative suggestibility, in contrast, seems to be robust to the user's internal processing of different content elements in the virtual environment. Our results could explain this because some gender differences previously found in VR literature may in fact be partially due to user variability in the level of imaginative suggestibility. In particular, we found that despite the fact that female users scored significantly higher in spatial presence and social presence compared to males, this effect disappeared when accounting for suggestibility. This means that females may interact with the VR content differently to males due to their increased level of imaginative suggestibility. In essence, suggestibility could present an interesting user trait for VR developers to leverage with the scope of enhancing presence in VR. This is all the more enticing given its uniform positive effects on all types of presence. It is ultimately unclear how exactly increased imaginative suggestibility can lead to increases in presence. One possibility is that individuals who are more suggestible can fill in the gaps in graphical or other technical shortcomings of the VR experience. So, for example, they can see a pixelated object, but mentally replace it with a visually richer image of said object. Equally though, they may simply be more able to ignore technical limitations in the environment. Overall, our results reinforce the idea that realism is a more abstract term than previously considered in literature. Ultimately, we can say that what the user perceives as realistic is not strictly a result of technical factors that make a virtual environment look or sound closer to the real world, but instead is heavily determined by how the user internalizes that environment. And with that, I wish to say thank you for listening and hope you found our study interesting.